what's your current opinion of AI, where it's going, and all the different tools that are being used with the so-called machine learning to produce the AI at this point? Do
Well,
you think, let me focus in on the question. Do you think that a lot of the AI is, for lack of a better word, bullshit to a certain extent? Or do you think that most of the companies saying that they're involved in AI are really doing that? Or do you think that it's basically marketing at this point and there's only still a poor number of companies that are really doing something bona fide out there?
well, I think the larger companies are certainly bona fide in their approach, and
Hmm.
they have some real engineers. I can't remember his name, but there's an engineer that was at Apple. I don't know if he's still there, but he created the adversarial model, which took everything to the next level. What everyone is doing, to my understanding, and I'm not an expert, but to my understanding, what they're doing is taking standard neural networks and turning them into deep learning models. So deep learning became a real
Let's
thing.
explain. Let's explain for a second the neural network system to people. Okay,
Yeah,
in
I'll
two
certainly do my best.
sentences.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
a neural network system is really a statistical model that has learning nodes. So you have inputs, and those inputs can come from anything, any kind of data set. So the data set has to be normalized so that it can be digested. So whatever that incoming data set is, it could be anything.
These data sets can be so-called tools like nonlinear, linear, things like that.
It could
Is
be
that what
anything.
we're?
It could be anything,
Yeah.
right? But you normalize it to get it within a certain parameter, say
Mm.
-1 to 1, or you normalize the data set so that the system is looking at pretty much the same type of data across the spectrum. And then that data comes in, and then the algo, depending on what you're running, whether it's Hebbian or ART maps, adaptive resonance theory maps, or whatever it is, whatever type of algo you're running on the neural network side, it checks what the decision objective is, or the objective is, and then it trains to that objective. Like what data gets me to this point where I'm achieving my objective, and then it feeds back, right? So, and I'm oversimplifying this, I know, but that essentially these nodes, they adjust the neurons, we'll call them. They adjust the weights. They're weighted, and they will adjust according to how it learns.
Mm-hmm.
And
What kind of a CPU output do these firms need nowadays compared to what you were using 20 years ago?
if their objective is well, there's a couple things to this. So you have these large language models that they're running, right? And which is just this statistics of language. And then behind that, you have the neural networks that are running. But to cover the corpus of humanity, I think you need large server farms, lots of electricity.
Mm-hmm.
I'm even hearing talk that they're going to be setting up these farms in Iceland, for example.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Because of the weather to keep things cool
That's right.
for the
You get the
systems.
CPUs
Huh.
cool. It doesn't cost you as much, and you have thermal, unlimited
Yeah.
thermal energy. So you
Mhm.
build these giant,
Oh,
solar
yeah.
farms.
No
Yeah.
wonder we want Greenland
It's
so
got
bad.
Yeah.
I knew it. There had to be something.
But you need large facilities to run it. There's an article
Yeah.
in Scientific American. I don't know. It must have been 10 years ago. The article was very thorough, and it talked about, I mean, it may have been 15 years ago, but it talked about the amount of energy that you would need, computational power and energy that you would need to achieve the same level of intelligence of the human mind. And it was just astronomical. And it just didn't look like it would ever be achievable, but they're on it. I want to make a point here, and I think this is important. What I think they have right now is a tool. I don't think it's conscious. We certainly haven't reached a singularity, and I don't know when that moment will come. There's a lot about Chat GPT and Grok and these other companies where it feigns true intelligence, where it mimics true intelligence,
Right.
I should say. But what you have is a tool that helps humans interface with that corpus of human knowledge. But it can do some incredible things. It can, it's certainly been programmed to create images. It's been programmed to write code,
Yep.
to write papers. So they're very close. I think the one thing that is missing, at least visibly to somebody in the public sector like me, or the private sector like me that's not involved in anything right now. I think the one thing that's missing is an extra layer of a concept engine behind everything else. And I think when they get that done, then you're going to switch on the imagination portion of AI, and that's when you're stepping into the what we might call consciousness, where it takes the body of work of humanity and starts creating and imagining, if you ask it, to solve the energy crisis or solve
going after cancer, things like this.
yes, solve
molecular
yes
biology.
Yes.
How many years do you think we're away from that, if you had to guess?
Given the acceleration and the commitment to it right now, and the fact that the United States and China and other countries see this as an opportunity to advance humankind, but also as a potential weapons platform, there's a lot of resources being dedicated to it. Normally, I would say, if it were not for that, I would say maybe 10 years, 12 years, 15 years, who knows?
Some of this will have to do with quantum, too, the advent of quantum.
Yes, absolutely.
Can you imagine?
If we get into quantum, where you get above like 100 qubits of processing power, and that's unlocked, I don't know. I mean, we could get there. Who knows? It's funny. It seems to me like the entire world, or the sort of the ethos of domestic and foreign policy for a lot of countries was, well, the population's growing too big, we need to control the population.
Right.
Because of potential food shortages and conflict and that kind of thing. But here we are, I think, on the precipice of making a huge technological leap where they may have to rewrite the rules altogether, because if that's the case, I don't think we're going to have any issues. I think that human intelligence creating AI is going to advance and support humanity from now on. I mean, I don't know what the limits of physics
That's
are.
a very optimistic way of looking at the world, Barry.
Well,
I'm a little surprised.
Right?
So listen, having discussed that, let's talk about the related subject, the security for all of this. Google this week, I don't know if either one of you have seen this, just bought a cybersecurity company in Israel called Wiz for $32 billion. Wiz has only been around for 5 years or so. I'm sure there were probably notes on paper long before that. But cybersecurity, encryption, this is going to become very expensive and very important. And part of the question I asked you about the AI and try to push you towards the question about whether it's marketing, things like that, was also meant to highlight my concern that with all this CPU usage and these big server farms, we're really putting the power of all of this within a few players' hands. I mean, you have Amazon, you have Google, you have Microsoft in terms of controlling the servers. Security is a priority. Encryption is a priority. Does blockchain come into this too? I mean, I know that that's what you've been talking about before with me, before Kiros in the past, as our business relationship. But this intrigues me a lot. What do you think about this?
Well, if I had to say, you're spot on. Security is going to be the preeminent focus point when it comes to guarding these types of secrets. But, under the Biden administration, I think I heard right that they were only going to limit access to 2 or 3 companies to develop this, and nobody else was going to be allowed to do it. And that's just, everything else was going to be national secret kind of stuff. Of course, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, how can they do that? How can they keep people from developing this? And then if you think about the nuclear secrets, I mean, nobody would dare try to go out and develop a nuclear weapon, right? So, and they've been able to keep that a national security priority forever. So they can do it. They can lock down information and say, you can't do this.
Because they have people like you who basically teach yourselves, and you can't stop individuals from self-learning. It's impossible.
It might have been a bad analogy, because I mean, when you're talking about nuclear power, it's a whole different thing. But you're talking about information, locking down information, and basically shutting the door on advancement for the general public. But when you're talking about coding for AI, you're right, Robert. I don't think you can stop that. But Trump, I think, has taken a completely different approach. But it is such a big deal. Funny enough, last week I was visiting the offices of XTX with the other CEO, or one of the other CEOs, the group CEO, and of our company. And
XTX is in Amsterdam. Where are they based?
well, they've got offices all over the world, but their primary office is in London. And XTX,
Okay, I'm sorry.
yeah, XTX is one of the largest market-making proprietary trading groups on the planet, and they are extremely good at what they do. But anyway, I was going to say went to the building that they were in, and XTX had the top 2 floors or 3, and all of the other floors underneath it, all of them were, I think it was Google Deep Mind. They're throwing a lot of resources at AI development. It's coming.